What up? We're back again. Surprise part 2.
2 days in a row.
Tuesday, April 2nd. You thought it was April Fool's, but no, we're back again.
We back. And this time, what are we smoking?
We are smoking Samuel Gawith's Squadron Leader.
The one, the only.
The one and only. You guys remember from last Friday, Patrick and I had gotten a hold of a tin of Skiff mixture, the sister mixture to Squadron Leader, but you guys said to hell with some Skiff. You want some Squad. And now you got the Squadron Leader voted up going head to head against yesterday's My Mixture 965.
Yep.
And we're lit up and we're smoking away. So this is within the English Tobracketology bracket.
Yep. And this was the number 2 seed. I'll say right off the bat, whereas I felt 965 was a real nutty blend, this is real toasty. Like it's got a good toast quality to it. A lot more than 965 had.
Interesting thing about Gawith blends, and I feel like Gawith really comes into their own in like Virginia or Virginia Perique, like St. James, and their aromatics, which is probably blasphemy to most people. I mean, because I like 1792 flake. I think Tonquin being added to, some kind of a fired tobacco, a little Kentucky, a little Virginia, in a flake form is awesome. I love Grousemore. The Fire Dance is really good. I mean, if you like that kind of Lakeland aromatic, I like Gawith and Hogarth too. Blends which have sort of an almond finish. Their dark cherry is really good. Their chocolate flake is delicious. I like the aromatics that come out of the Lakeland district. I know a lot of people find it tastes like kind of grandma perfume or soap, and I can see that. I mean, I really do. It doesn't affect me, but I understand. But their Englishes are coveted, and I guess I just never have gotten it. I mean, I like them fine. I'm sort of showing my hand here, but I mean, if you were to get down to brass tacks, Gawith struggles, in my opinion, with an English.
How many? So they have, what all are their Englishes? You got Squadron Leader.
You got Skiff mixture. You got Navy flake. You've got technically Balkan flake. I don't know how people feel about that. You've got 1792 doesn't count. St. James don't count. Full Virginia doesn't count. What is that one called? It's like the Boers or something like that. Or Moors Bothy flake. And it's got like some scotch in there. I haven't had Bothy flake yet, so I hear good things. But then again, I've heard good things about Squadron Leader and Skiff mixture. I do feel like Skiff mixture compared to Squadron Leader, if I were to choose between the two, Skiff is definitely a more subdued version of Squadron Leader, in my opinion.
Yeah, like the My Mixture 965 from yesterday, this is a little bit of an aged blend. It's maybe 2 years, a year and a half old.
Yeah.
But I would say it's a little bit more bitey. I don't mean as far as tongue bite or anything, but it does seem a little bit more harsh than My Mixture 965.
I think the Cavendish has a lot to say for keeping it sort of smooth for 965. Squadron Leader on the Retro Hill is pepper to me, black pepper. That's what I taste.
Yeah. I haven't even done that yet.
It has like a sort of nice peppery taste to it. It's for an English with Latakia, it is going to be the most subdued in my opinion. It's just so subdued in terms of like the Latakia. You're going to get more your Virginia and your Oriental. I mean, even because I think Skiff mixture to me is lighter. It's more Oriental, and I still think Squadron Leader, like stacked up against typical Englishes like 965 or HH Latakia Flake or especially like something like Nightcap. I mean, Nightcap is like blow your socks off, tobacco.
Yeah.
But this is, Gawith seems to hold back a little bit on their Latakia in their blends. And an interesting point that someone made to me recently was that I'm a snuff fan. I like snuff a lot. Not allowed to have it because I don't know. My wife, she does not like things going up my nose.
I was wondering why I hadn't seen you with it.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't snuff anymore. She doesn't like it. But I love snuff. Same with Gawith. Not my favorite snuff company is a snuff company. And I swear, after someone said this to me, I started thinking about it. And it's almost like you're smoking snuff, the flavor. I can kind of taste that snuff aspect to the tobacco when I'm smoking it. It's not super pronounced. It's sort of like a subtle thing, but I feel like that kind of snuff quality that comes out, which to me speaks volumes because I kind of like their snuff better than I like their tobacco. But I mean, in my opinion, they're not the best snuff producers in the world. I think, unless they're the same company, but whoever produces Wilson's of Sharo, holy crap, man, that stuff is so good. Grand Cairo. If you guys want to get into snuff, get an SP Grand Cairo. It's legit. It's the best. Basically, it's like, just tooting up your nostrils. Just a straight bergamot Earl Grey tea. It's delicious. I love it. It's refreshing. And then Crumbs of Comfort. Another Wilson's of Sharo. It's delicious. Spearmint. It's very strong. Clean you out. Like, if you're especially going into sinus and allergy season, you get a little pinch of Crumbs of Comfort and a little toot up your nose. And sure enough, man, you'll be breathing just fine. And it's awesome. Not the biggest, don't snort it, you just like a little
pinky dab.
Just like you were smelling, you're kind of like it's like if someone had chocolate on their finger and they're like, is this poop or is this chocolate, and you do like a little timid sniff of it because you know that if you get too much of a whiff, you're in trouble. It's the same thing with snuff. I'd say just a little.
You're not going into a tin of tobacco, trying to get all that smell in there. You're not doing that.
Man, this is your college days, Mm-hmm. You're not going in for like a good old line of white powder, like, You're not in a men's bathroom and someone's throwing a line on some porcelain. No. This is just a kind of a timid little poop sniff. That's what I call it. And it just kind of goes inside and then you're good to go. Whew. If you store too much, man, you're going to hit the back of your throat and it's all powder. Like high dry toast is, high dry toast is rough. It's good. It just tastes like someone's kicking your teeth in, like, because it just gets all in there. It's just so, you think that the more fine it is, that it would be easier to take, but good Lord, no, it's the coarse ground snuff is actually better, in my opinion.
Really? Maybe we'll do an episode on snuff one day.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be called Snuffcast. I have never partaked in the snuff. Now, I know that my grandmother, they always referred to her saying that she would dip snuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
Well, snuff's so fun. They even have snuff. If you're talking about wet snuff, which is essentially Copenhagen and Skoal,
Mm-hmm.
Old women apparently, Southern women especially, old Southern women. We're not talking about your grandma now. You're talking about your grandma's grandma, like old Southern women would take a spoonful of snuff or something and dump it in their bottom lip, or just hard core snuff takers. But like the way I take it is just nasal snuff, and then you just it's dry, it's great. Sorry, back to Sam and Gawith Squadron Leader. I do find that it has kind of a snuff quality to it. Like I think all their tobacco is a little bit more subdued, smoking tobacco.
Yeah. Now with this one, as far as components go, as it varies from yesterday's 965, everything's the same except there is no Cavendish, and I don't believe there's the addition of some red Virginias. It has both Virginias in this, whereas my mixture only had, I believe, bright. I will have to say, I don't know, it's hard, man. I really like that toasty flavor. It hit me from the first puff. It's still there, so I'd have to say this is high up there. I'm not going to show my hand as far as how it compares to yesterday, but I say it's high too. They're battling right now.
You can sort of taste with the pepper and sort of the spice of it. There isn't a lot of sweetness, and if it is, it's pretty subdued. You sort of have to almost. The only way I really get sweetness out of this is if I smoke it so light that it actually is on the verge of going out, and then I can taste something subtle. But to me, there is more of a pepper note in it. And when I say pepper, I'm talking about black pepper. I'm not talking about like jalapeno or habanero. It is not that strong. It is just a light pepper that you would get, when you cook chicken or steak.
Table side pepper.
Right. Which is not a bad thing. That's not bad. No. I'll tell you something I'm not getting, which shows my hand even more. Slow, fast, definitely not getting that buttery taste that I like.
And I'm not really getting much Latakia.
God, I'm telling you, man, it's not. This is low grade Latakia. Unless it aged really crazy in that jar, it is not as pronounced.
But I will say, I know you're talking about the pepperiness of the retrohale. I will say the retrohale was much more in your face with 965.
Yeah,
This is very peppery, like you say, but this is very it's very low, very subdued, as you say.
It might be that the 965 you just got more to work with. Either their proportions are completely different, and the proportion for Latakia might be actually heavier, which I know it is. It's got to be. There's no way it's not, because the Latakia is just so much more pronounced.
Yeah.
Unless the stock of Latakia that they purchased is just so different, which I don't think it is.
I mean, it's pretty standard as far. I mean, if you're talking Cyprian, to me it seems every time I've had it seems pretty standard. Now, who blends Gawith?
So it's just Samuel Gawith. That's the company.
They blend it themselves. I mean, they do their blending themselves?
Yes.
Okay.
So Samuel Gawith is a tobacco company that's been around quite a long time.
They take care of the whole thing.
The whole thing. So they get in the leaves, and then there's actually some videos online that you can look at the Lakeland district. It takes you a little bit to find them on YouTube, but you can find them. And the way you find it is actually there is so if you're heading into Parliament, when you head into Parliament, there is a kind of like a butler gatekeeper. Do not quote me on this. What he is, though, is he's the snuff box keeper, because you're not allowed to smoke in Parliament, but you got to keep a box of snuff nearby. So when you go into Parliament, if you're like a parliamentary leader or something like that, you can actually get a pinch of snuff on the way in. If you watch the video on YouTube, I'd have to find it. Maybe I can find it or something and get it linked somehow. But if you watch that video, not only does the guy demonstrate how to take snuff, which is he does a good job of showing you how to take snuff. I do the pinch method. I think he does that as well. Then it also leads into the type of snuff makers, and it talks about Samuel Gawith and their equipment that they use to make snuff. And that's actually pretty fascinating, because you see them actually take the tobacco, put it into a machine that's older than probably our state. And just it grinds out the tobacco into a fine powder, and then they add the type of flavorings and things that they need to make the nasal snuff flavored, and that's how they produce it. It's pretty fascinating. And the guy's like, of generations of snuff makers, so it's pretty cool. I mean, that's a fascinating video if you like that kind of stuff. But it's weird how I found it. I found it because there's a snuff keeper in Parliament. So, like, you're talking about, like, that whole, was it, like, Westminster, right?
Yeah.
Area. There's, like, a guy, when you go in, you can ask him for a little pinch of snuff because they made it illegal to smoke in Parliament.
That's pretty interesting. So it seems like Cornell and Dill is like the American version of like McBaron or Gawith, as far as like they do everything in house. They do it all. And I guess I'm sort of picking up on a trend here. If a company's sole purpose is just the making of the tobacco, they take care of all of it. Whereas if it's a company that makes pipes and then also makes tobacco, they usually go outside of them. They get a third party to blend it.
That from what I gather, that's what it is. So most pipe makers are only concerned with the making of the pipe, and then if their name is successful enough, they can outsource their
recipes
name. Well, I mean, it doesn't even have to be their recipes. It can be someone else's recipes technically,
and they just put a little,
and they just slap their name on it. It just depends how comfortable you are.
Well, that's another thing too. I mean, what laws are there on recipes? We sort of talked about it a little bit yesterday, but like, what keeps if say Peterson I think Peterson is now blended by McBaron, maybe, or no, I think what you were talking about yesterday about the Dunhill stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's happening with Peterson. Peterson is all their blends are getting sort of sold out, and they're changing blends.
I think they're changing producers, though.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, because the people that own smoking pipes bought the pipe part of Peterson, and somebody else bought the like rights to the tobacco.
Well, I mean, I imagine the recipe would go with them.
But that's what I'm saying. Like,
I know people like hardcore connoisseurs of like Peterson's Perfect Plug are going to be pretty upset if, I'm assuming if their plug is changed or the way it's produced is changed.
Yeah, I think they said all their pretty big stuff is going to stay, like Irish Oak, Irish Whiskey, maybe it was Irish Flake, Sherlock Holmes, Hyde Park. I think all that Peterson Perfect Plug. Old Dublin, all that's going to stay. But, it may change. And I could be wrong. I could be maybe taking some liberties with my paraphrasing. But what I was getting at is what keeps, say, Peterson from saying, hey, we want a blend that is similar to, let's just say, Elizabethan mixture. What keeps them from just deciding to use the same blender that made Elizabethan and say, we want to use that exact recipe. Because with Cornell and Dill, they don't use the recipes that GLPs create to make any of their blends. The same components, but like Pease makes his recipes, which consists of certain percentages of the component. But Cornell and Dill has access to it, but Cornell and Dill doesn't. Those recipes are for the GLP's blends. They don't repackage them as their own.
Right.
Along with the GLPs. Like, what keeps other companies from doing things like that?
I mean, like, the pipe community and tobacco community are pretty close-knit.
Yeah.
There's probably some sort of gentleman's agreement about the whole thing. I imagine, like, if you had upset somebody, like a Pease, who has a fairly large platform, I believe, like, he could probably get word out that, like, you kind of double-crossed him, and I'm sure people wouldn't take kindly to it.
And he probably would. I mean, let's just say if Cornell and Dill did do that, he probably would stop he'd stop working with them, maybe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Pease, sorry, we're going chasing a rabbit here, but Pease seems to me like, we've talked about this before, if he started tinning his up the old, the more European way, in the 50-gram tins, the gold ones, I think he would be a top contender amongst blenders, or blenders, because he makes good stuff.
I mean, you think there's a difference between the tins?
Yeah, we talked about it once before. You were saying that his stuff seems to not be as married together.
Yeah, because you had the theory that you thought it had to do with like the tinning process.
Yeah, because to me it seems like, just in my personal opinion, I don't see how that that gold tin as compared to the like little thin aluminum tin that the American blends come in. I mean, just to me that makes so much sense why the gold tin holds its you know, holds its own more. And I mean, and it's like you said, most of the English and European blends just seem more married. Their components seem more married, and to me, I don't think that has anything to do with the manufacturer. I really do think it has to do with the packaging, because even with the, you know, when you pop open the gold tins, you hear that sound, and you do hear it a little bit with the Cornell and Dill tins, and like the Seattle Pipe Club tins, but it's not as pronounced. It's a lot different. So I think that's the thing. But
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Now P's recreated Drucker and Sons blends, and I'd like to get a hold of them because I think they're packaged differently. But I do not know, which that's probably silly of me to say, but I don't know if they're done by Cornell and Dill. They might not be, but the packaging's so different. So it's a different packaging. It's got to be Cornell and Dill. There's no way it's not. But like, I could be wrong.
Unless I mean, has P's always been? Has he always been packaged and blended by Cornell and Dill, or was there ever a time where he didn't?
I believe he always has. I'm pretty sure he always has. From my understanding, he's always been blended by Cornell and Dill.
Now, we talked about it before. Who is it that? Oh, okay, like the Hearth and Home. They're in like that style tin, the gold 50-gram tin, and they're American.
Yeah, well, I mean, but they're a different tobacco company. They're not Cornell and Dill.
But I was just saying, like, if you wanted to test that theory out, I don't know. You'd have to find
okay.
somebody.
Well, then here's a perfect example. I got an example of it, a head-to-head. Okay, Hearth and Home. That is Russ Ouellette's. I think he blends under that name. Kind of the GLPs of that. I think the Pennsylvania Tobacco Group. And his Black House went head-to-head with Meridian, which is GLP's version of the Sobrani tin that they did a competition a couple years ago. It was like that. Like I said, Blue Mountain or Blue Balkan or Balkan Blue by McClellan, Meridian by GLP's, which would have been Cornell and Dill, and then Black House, which is a Hearth and Home or I think Pennsylvania Tobacco Group company. Or Standard Tobacco. I can't remember which one. It's one of those. Maybe they're both the same. I don't know. But and Black House won. So if it has to do with marriage, and the game changer is that the tin style is what's giving you that sort of married flavor throughout. I mean, if there's anything to prove that, then GLPs and Russ Ouellette going head to head on that. That would be the deciding factor, I suppose.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Because they might have just mixed up a bunch of bags of the stuff and just brought it up there. But if they actually tinned it, and they had to smoke it from the tin, there's a lot of information that we don't have.
Yeah, and it's hard to compare blends to blends when you don't know if the recipes are exactly the same, That's another thing. And two, you bring in bulk stuff, isn't like Stokeby, he's only bulk.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, what do people consider like I've never smoked Luxury Flake or Bullseye versus Escudo versus whatever that version would be that's tinned up like the more, Cornell and Dill style. That could be a telltale sign.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a common thing where Stokeby stuff isn't as married as well because it's all bulk.
That's true.
I don't know. There's some questions that we'll have to continue doing some digging on, but
you said, I mean, if they're not the same blends, how can they be compared?
That's what I was like. We would need to get like GLPs to get one of his normal things made by Cornell and Dill. And then just maybe on a one-off, take that same recipe and ask Scandinavian Tobacco Group to do the same thing, but in their style, and then compare them. That'd be the only way to do it, I think. And then you'd find out.
Yeah, just doing the two different tin types. I mean, you would have to see how long they sat for, because I've gotten tons of tobacco over the years, but I've gotten tobacco that have been already aged a year, and then there's no telling how long they were aged. I mean, you'd have to have all these, like, how long has it been in the tin that could affect it, and blah 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 blah. But
yeah, if you could control the variables as much as possible.
as long as they were the same, especially if they came out of the same stock, and you tin them at the exact same time.
Yeah, if you could get Cornell and Dill, simplify this. If you could get them to just tin one up, with a 50-gram tin, gold tin,
and then tin another the other way.
Yeah,
and then let them sit for like a year.
Yeah.
I think giving them a year would probably help.
Yeah, but that's the thing. How long are tins? How long do they sit before they come to you? Like you buy something from Smoking Pipes.
Well, the best thing to do is to look at the dadgum label.
We can find that out here shortly, because we just got one in this week. We had to order some of that Telegraph Hill for the paper challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we can look at it and see. But pulling it all back to say about this Squadron Leader, I'm going to say it is high. It's going to be up there with my mixture 965 moving forward.
I'm going to say mid-high. When you burn it hot, it does sour a little bit. It doesn't have the buttery. Doesn't mean it's going to be like outright out the gate, but I mean, you guys probably already can tell my opinion on it. I'm not going to beat around the bush about it. Not to say that Patrick, he's going to reveal at his time, and I'm going to reveal at mine, I guess. And that's the joys of having two people sitting here. But like personally, 965 is probably the superior of the two blends. I don't see how it couldn't be, just from these two smokes and the mini smokes I've had before. Like I said, I've not always been super impressed with English or any type of non-aromatic blend out of the Gawith camp. Not to say that they don't. Look, you could give me Squadron Leader and you say this is the only tobacco you get for the rest of your life, and I promise you I'll smoke it. And maybe even one day learn how to smoke it in a way that makes it the best tobacco I've ever had in my entire life. But all in all, I don't feel it the way something like a 965 would come off the bat at. So that's just my opinion.
Well, with that, I'm pretty close to the end here. So
me too, buddy. Me too.
Well, till the next time. See ya.